Hey everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. Today's video is sort of a what we eat in a week. So I get requested for them quite regularly, and I like them too. Like, I watch a lot of people's, week of meals and things like that, because I find them a little bit like flicking through a recipe magazine. I find them inspirational. You get little tidbits of how they did it, but mostly you just get inspiration of the meals that they make and the running meals that they make. Now, mine are not as aesthetic as everyone else's. These are realistic meals in our house. So they're lunches and dinners. They're made in my kitchen for us to eat. They are not made for specific, like for the video. So what I'm planning to do with the new schedule and everything is try and get one of these out every fortnight to every month. And so it'll be a week of meals within the period before I release them. These are not, as I said, not done for video purposes. This is just purely what I film. So some days I don't film. Some days I'm making lunch and I go, oh, I should have filmed this, or dinner or whatever, and I don't. Or some days I make the whole meal and then I just do a little shot of it and go, that's all I've got because I forgot. So what I tried to do this particular video was also talk while I was doing it. Rather than voiceovering, so we will see how that goes. Give me some feedback. So I've just been basically, whenever I'm making a meal, if I've got the camera sitting there, I talk while I'm doing it, if I have no other purpose for that particular content or anything else. And then I've collated them. So it's going to be around about a week, lunches and dinners. I don't show breakfasts because breakfast is a bit of a serve yourself situation here. I say that every time I do these. The kids have access to homemade granola, boxes of cereal like Wheat Bix and cornflakes, rice bubbles. They use rice milk, so there's shelf-stable rice milk for them to use, and honey or whatever else they want. Plus they eat a lot of leftovers. Regularly have leftover pasta from the night before at breakfast. They generally have cereal first, but there is also plant-based protein shakes that are available for them if that's what they want, with their yogurt and whatever, or they have smoothie pops, or they can make a fresh smoothie, anything like that. So it's a serve yourself thing, because Darryl and I don't really do breakfast. We tend to, not on purpose, but it's just the way it works, we tend to fast from dinner until mid-morning lunchtime. I have a coffee and that's about it. So I only tend to film lunches and dinners, unless it's something specific. Like if the kids have asked me to make a Dutch baby pancake or something, I might film it while I'm doing it. But generally they've still already had breakfast. They've still already had cereal and stuff early, 7:30 in the morning, and I make that at like 9 o'clock and it's their second breakfast. So all the meals, as I said, are made to be eaten, so sometimes the filming of them is not superb, and none of them are necessarily perfected for video. So this is about a week's worth of meals over the span of the last 2 weeks, and it includes a bunch of different stuff, and hopefully that, like me, you'll find some, something out of it to see the meals and run on. And a lot of my run on meals are like, I did this for dinner, and then for lunch the next day we used this leftover from lunch to make this, because that's how I work the house as much as possible. And I think I appreciate that when I watch it in other people's, like, you got leftovers, but I'm not a huge fan of leftovers, really not a huge fan of leftovers. My kids and Darryl, happy to eat leftovers, but I really like to turn those bits that I ate for dinner into something different. It's really not my thing to eat the same meal 2 times running, which is really ridiculous and silly, but it is the way it is, which is probably why I'm struggling so much with the keto or carnivore thing too, because I like variety in my food and there is a lack of that at the moment. So anyway, let's get into it. As I said, I spoke while filming. Anything that I went to edit and it didn't have any talking, I put some text over the top of, but I probably could come in and do voiceovers on some of those bits and pieces, the smaller bits. Just let me know in the comments how this works for you, because this is going to be a sort of a constant thing. At least once a month is the hope in that schedule of regular videos, because there is many times when I do lunch or dinner and it's something that I could share, but I don't have anything else to share throughout the day or anything like that. So doing it this way could work like that. Hopefully the eventual aim is to have links to nearly all these things that I'm making too on the website. At the moment, there's the hamburger rolls that I made are on there, I think, but that's probably about it. But we will get there. So enjoy, and I will see you guys on the next video. So that was everything. Thanks for watching. let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys. Okay, so dinner tonight, we have some prawns that are defrosted in the fridge, so I'm going to peel those and grill them up. Darryl and I will have a bit of beef with them, and the kids, I'm going to make a baked risotto. So I need to get the kids in the oven first. So I'm dicing up some onion here. I've got some diced bacon. I'm going to fry that off in the pan first. I'm pretty sure I've made the baked risotto on the channel before. It's pretty simple. Heat all the liquid up in a cast iron Dutch oven, but fry the aromatics off first, and then heat all the liquid up to a boiling point, add the rice and stick it in the oven. That's pretty much it. Nice and simple. Now I do make a really nice risotto in the Thermomix, and I think I made that recently on here too, and it's a really nice one. But the thing is that one bowlful used to be enough for all the kids, and these days they end up wanting more than one bowlful, and to make two is a lot of power usage at this time of night. So I'm going to just do the baked one. So I've got bacon bits here, pot. I'm going to cook them off first. And then I can cook the onion off in the fat. I always like to put my bacon in a cold pan, and then heat it up, because I find that helps to render the fat out a bit more. So we're just going to cover the bottom of that pot there with the bacon till it cooks, and then I'll add the onion. Alright, it's released a little bit of fat in the bottom. It's enough. I'm running a bit late tonight, so normally I would crisp that up a bit more, but it's not going to matter. It's going to bake in the oven as well. So I'm going to add the onion to it and cook that off till it's translucent. Otherwise it'll be too crunchy in the risotto. But remember that we are baking this as well, and there is going to be a lot of liquid in it. So we'll give that a mix, let that onion cook and soften a bit, and then I'll put the liquid in it as well. Added a little bit of garlic now that the bacon and the onion are mostly done. I don't want to burn the garlic, so I've added that little bit of garlic, and then we're almost ready to add the liquid. So I don't have a whole lot of stock canned at the moment, so what I've got here is I've got a quart of water with a tablespoon of vegeta in it, which is all the seasoning, and then I'll add 2 more of these, just topping up with water, getting that last bit of stock out of them. So now I'm going to bring that up to the boil, and then I'll add the rice, and then it'll go in the oven. So this is the third of 4 boxes that we bought of prawns. These are Australian banana prawns, certified, really nice. They're just the small bananas rather than tiger prawns, and they run at $17 a kilo. So for us, they're well worth it. The first 2 boxes we ate over Christmas, New Year period, and we just boiled them. We just had the prawns boiled and dipped in homemade seafood sauce and things like that. But this box we had half last night with, the kids had it with, what did we have last night? I actually can't remember. Darryl and I had some chaffles. I think the kids had tacos with them. I can't remember. But no, they had pesto pasta with the prawns, that's right. And then tonight we'll do the other half with the risotto, and Darryl and I will have some of the thin cut Wagyu beef that we bought from the butcher really cheap, which has been really, really nice. I'll show you that when I cut it up. It has been a great buy. I am really happy with that. Of course, I probably will never get it again because I have never seen it before, and it was only $20 a kilo, which was pretty cheap. I've never seen, I checked the meat wholesaler too, and their Wagyu is much more expensive than that. This was 4 to 5 marbling score, and it's just really nice. I'll show you. But so anyway, so I've got around about 1.5 kilos of prawns here that I'm just going to peel so that they can be cooked off. The risotto is just starting to bubble, so I will add the rice and get that in the oven shortly. Okay, so this is bubbling, so I'm going to add rice. I've got 2 open risotto rices here, and it ends up being about 800 grams of rice, which is plenty. I can do up to 1 kilo, but I do find that 1 kilo sometimes is a little bit too much, and it ends up just a touch dry. So 800 grams is probably ideal. So 800 grams of rice in there. Mix that round. Now I'm just going to grab the lid, and then we will get it in the oven. There we go, and then into the oven. This is the beef that I was talking about, the Wagyu beef with the 4 to 5 score marbling. Now, this is the end of a piece. It's been in the fridge for a couple of days, so it's not as, lush looking. But this, when we cut this thin, you can cook it off, and it's so tender. It is just amazing. So I've just been cutting it into pieces like this. Obviously it's harder the further into the piece you get, and frying it off, flash frying it, not too long, in a really hot pan with a bit of butter, and it is delicious. So this has been a really great buy. That little bit cheaper than steak, goes a little bit further because we're cutting it thin to eat rather than nice thick slabs of steak, but has that real beefy taste. So the risotto has been in the oven for about 35 minutes and is perfectly fluffy and cooked. So the kids can have this. I'm going to add a knob of Nuttalex to it because we don't have any ghee at the moment because Sonnet accidentally broke the last jar. So I've ordered some in bulk. Normally I would add ghee, but I'm going to add a little bit of Nuttalex, and this will just make it nice and shiny as it melts through there before it's served. So I'm going to put the lid back on this for the moment to let that melt, and then when the prawns are finished, the kids can have it. Alright, so the kids are having the risotto with the prawns in it. This is our bowls, which is at a weird angle, but I'm working in a hot kitchen. So we've got just the bits of steak, sliced nice and thin, cut off, good colour, and the prawns on top. And then I added some garlic and some grana padano and some cream to the pot that we cooked all the prawns in, and created a bit of a sauce. It doesn't look as appealing because it's got all that schmaltz in it, but that's the tasty parts. Looks more like a gravy than a garlic cream sauce, but it is going to be super tasty. So that is dinner tonight. It is Sunday, and lunch today is going to be leftover of the sausage patties. I'm going to warm these up. Darryl and I will probably just have it with sliced cheese and eggs again. The kids do have some leftover risotto, so they could potentially have some of this crumbled through risotto, or they could crumble it up with some eggs on wraps, or whatever they want. So however they want to have it is fine by me, but this is leftover sausage patties that I cooked yesterday, and we're going to have these for lunch. Sunday's dinner. It's been a busy day in the kitchen, so I'm going super simple. I pulled out 2 of the boneless chickens to defrost. They're not completely defrosted, but they're defrosted enough. I'm going to cut them up, stick them on the trays, and then I will do mashed potato and veg for the kids, and Darryl and I will probably just have this with a bit of butter. So I'm just going to open these up, get them on the tray. And all I do if I haven't got them fully defrosted is I tend to cut them into their pieces. So I cut the thighs off, I cut the breasts down the middle, and sometimes in half again. I don't know if you can see the cat's head popping up the side of the bench here. She can smell the chicken. My own fault. I tend to feed her scraps when I have them available, so she comes looking for them. So yes, I'm just breaking it into 2 breast pieces, cutting the thighs off, things like that, just so that there are smaller pieces for it to cook through, seeing as it's a little bit frozen. So not ideal, but at the same time, I forgot to pull them out yesterday. So it is what it is. That's what we're doing. So we're just going to cut them up. Such a fiddly job when everything is still partially frozen, covered in marinade, and we've got flies everywhere. Alright, now let me wash my hands, and I'm going to grab a couple of probes to go into these thick, still mostly frozen pieces, to just keep an eye on the temperatures. Like that. And then we're just going to stick them in the oven. So the kids have mashed potatoes, steamed veg, and some of the chicken pieces, and then they can always come back for more for later if that's what they want. And Darryl and I will just share some chicken with some butter, and then we've got those cheesecake to share after dinner as well. So plenty of fats and stuff there, but lazy dinner. Monday lunch. Now I'm hoping to stay out of the kitchen as much as possible today so that we can do really simple. I kept the egg whites from yesterday's meals that are going to go into chaffles, and the kids I'm just going to make a quick flatbread. So I make a really simple quick rise flatbread. We do 400 grams of water, tepid preferably, though it's pretty warm today so it's not a huge issue. About 15 grams of yeast, pinch of salt, and a pinch of sugar to help with that quick rise of that yeast in the heat today. Just sort of a teaspoonful of sugar just to help that rise. And then we're just going to add some flour, 800 grams of bread flour. You can use plain though as well, you just might need to reduce the water a little bit. And 100 grams of oil. Bring it together on speed 6, and then knead on dough mode for 2 minutes. Alright, it's a rough dough, it doesn't need to be particularly smooth, so the 2 minutes is plenty. And then all I do is I tip it out. It's nice and warm because that water was tepid, but also just the movement of it warms it up in this ambient temperature. And all I do is I bring it together, give it a little bit of a spray of oil. Yes. And then just wrap it up in the dough mat for 15 minutes to sort. And then while that's proofing, I will mix up the dough for our chaffles. Alright, so they've got egg whites from dinner, it's from the ice cream that I made. So that's 4 egg whites. Need to use a minimum of 3, but a little bit extra doesn't hurt anything. Just changes the texture. As I said, ends up a bit softer, a little bit more like a sandwich bread toast rather than really crisp, like when it's mostly cheese. So just going to mix that through, and then we're just going to keep going. So the dough's all soft, stretchy and puffy. All I do is I split it into individual balls and line them up and let them have another 10 minutes before I roll them out to fry them off. I just roll these out in sort of an elongated shape, a bit like a naan shape, because then I can fit 2 per pan. So I cook them off in the cast iron. I like to put a little bit of oil in the bottom of the cast iron because I like it to bubble up and have some crispy bits, 'cause that's my preference. So I just do them elongated so that they will fit. I can cook 4 at a time just to make it go as quickly as possible. So this is what they look like when they're done. Nice and usable for whatever you want. If we had butter chicken, we use them as a side for butter chicken. The kids just wrap eggs and bacon, and there's still sausage patties left, I think. So if they want to cook up some sausage patties, they can have that with it, or sometimes they just have it with butter and garlic salt. So whatever they want. This is their carrier for lunch today. And here are the chaffles. I'm just going to have some spreadable cream cheese and some salami on it. I don't know if Darryl's going to have just that or something else as well, but that's them cooked up to eat for lunch too. Monday night dinner, we have some of the wagyu that I've cut really thin. I'm going to stir fry. The kids will have udon noodles with it and some frozen veg, and we'll just have some beef with bits and pieces, but we've got cheesecake if we want afterwards anyway, so super simple. So the kids have their udon noodles, oyster sauce, beef and veggies, one of their favourite sort of things to eat. And we've got just some beef cooked up with some of the cauliflower broccoli rice and a bit of salt, and I'll probably add a little bit of garlic, and that'll be a bit of a stir fry for us as well. So I added a little bit of salsa, sour cream, Mexican cheese on our beef just to make it a bit more of a well-rounded meal. All right, it is Wednesday. I didn't film eating yesterday. What did we have yesterday? We had serve yourself lunch, leftover sausage patties, salad, wraps, all that sort of stuff. And for dinner, I did red curry with the leftover beef, but I didn't film any of it. So today, Wednesday, I'm going to make some hamburger buns. So we've got beef trim in there that needs to be used. So we're going to mince some of that up for hamburger patties tonight. So I'm going to make some buns for the kids. So my standard brioche rolls that I don't like, I prefer them without egg. So I make a batch without egg. Now I've just warmed this water up. It's not boiling, but I've warmed it up because the coconut cream is out of the fridge. So I just wanted to take the chill off the coconut cream. So we've got 720 mils of water, 180 mils of milk. Now this recipe is up on my website. You can take that up to 900. We're going to add 25 grams of yeast, 20 to 30 works for this recipe, just depends on the ambient temperature. We're going to put some sugar. I need can you find me just the little yellow measuring cup or whatever from there? Some sugar. The brioche buns always are slightly sweet, but also that sugar helps it to proof nice and fast. So we're going to put 100-ish grams of sugar in there over these like 20 odd rolls, and then we need to add some flour. So we do a mix of baker's and plain flour. We got 1100 grams of baker's flour. So we've got 1100 of baker's, and then we add 180 of plain flour as well. Now it's not definitely necessary to do the two different flours, but it does add a little bit of lightness to them, I find. So I'm going to take this to 2280. All right, and then we add 150 grams of ghee normally, except that we don't have any ghee at the moment, so I'm just going to use olive oil. So 150 grams of fat of your choice, olive oil or ghee or melted butter if you want. And then 20 grams of salt. Going to need it in the KitchenAid. Can you find me the dough hook, please? So we start on slow till it's combined a bit, and then we'll bump the speed up. And then it'll take a good 5 to 12 minutes to come together nice and silky, get all those bits off the side and everything else. Now, the brioche dough is very sticky. It always is, but it tends to get less sticky as it proofs, but also we just use plenty of flour when we're using it. You want it wet because that gives us a nice moist roll, but different flours will absorb liquid differently too. So this particular one with the plain flour in it, and then because I used olive oil instead of ghee, will have created a bit more water in the dough as well, a bit more fluid in the dough, a bit more liquid. So it's possibly a little too wet, but I'm gonna leave it as is because I find that it tends to proof up really well. So it is a bit sticky, but it's not excessive. I don't know, maybe I will. No, I think I'm going to leave it. I think it should be fine once it proofs up. And hey, maybe it'll prove me wrong. So I'm just going to scrape it into a slightly oiled Cambro container for proofing until it's doubled, and then I will shape it into rolls. So I'll bring you back when I do that. And while this is proofing, then I'll figure out some lunch. Now, I think we have a whole lot of eggs at the moment, so probably need to do something with eggs. I won't do Dutch babies because it's too late for that. It's already lunchtime, but maybe some scrambled eggs, some bacon bits or something, or I don't know. I'll have a look at what's in the fridge at the moment and make a call from there. But so yes, very slack dough, but I think you'll be surprised when it proofs and stuff. So that's just going to sit somewhere warm for, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour and a half. Really depends on the temperature.
All right, so I cooked off all the bacon bits, and then I'm cooking the eggs in the bacon fat. Just going to scramble them. Darryl and I will have ours with a bit of salsa, sour cream and cheese. The kids can have it on wraps or just in a bowl. I think they've got some leftover rice from last night too if they want it. Some curry that they could have with it, some of the red curry, so however they want it. Just nice and simple. And this is our plates. Alright, so the dough has well and truly proofed. So we're going to tip it out. It's still pretty sticky, but we're tipping it out onto a well floured board and we will make it work. It is warm here, and sometimes that's part of the problem, is that the heat, when you proof dough, when it's warm, I find that it ends up far stickier than if it's cold. If it's proofed in colder weather, it takes longer. The quicker it proofs, the lacquer I find it is. But this is hamburger buns, so being a little bit slack is not a bad thing because it means that it spreads out when it does its second shaped proof. So all I'm doing is folding that flour that I spread out into the middle. So we want the flour on the outside edge, but not too much to go on the inside of the dough. So that's why you just keep on folding that flour in like that. Now it is very slack, but workable with a little bit of flour. So that's fine. It's very warm, this dough. And the water I used wasn't excessively warm, but got some really big bubbles in here. Okay, now I normally weigh my rolls just to make it easier, but the scales have a broken foot, so they're not as accurate as they could be, but they will do. So what we go for is around about 90 grams, which is hard to tell depending on the weight of the dough, because the more slack the dough, the less weighs that. Like, that's a hard... The more slack the dough, the less air pockets, and therefore the 90 gram dough balls seem smaller than otherwise. So once I do a couple, I'll be able to figure out what 90 grams looks like. And then all I'm doing is I'm folding the wet, sticky parts in underneath with a bit of flour on the top, creating a ball. A little bit of extra flour if need be, but you don't want too much where the dough is balling at the bottom, otherwise it won't stick to itself. But this is a bit too sticky. So there we go. So we're aiming for about 90, but if it's a little bit over, a little bit under, I don't worry about it. Just tucking all the sticky bits in and then bringing it together. A little bit more flour if it's sticking to my hands too much. There we go. So this way we've still got a nice wet bouncy dough without too much additional flour, just by adding that little bit to handle it, and that's all. So I'll just keep on going with all of them. Now they don't need long once they're shaped, because they were already pretty well proofed, and I'm very gentle when I shape them. So just the time it takes to finish shaping and then preheat the oven is normally enough. So I've just got one egg mixed with a tiny bit of water here to brush them, and this is mainly just for aesthetics, but I'm also going to put some sesame seeds on them, so the egg wash helps the sesame seeds to stick to the buns. So I'm just going to egg wash them all, sprinkle some sesame seeds, and then chuck them in the oven. Flies today are really bad. There's rain forecast for this afternoon, and whenever it's humid and still, that's when the flies come out really badly. I need to get one of the battery operated fans, but there's no batteries charged at the moment. So they're done. Just get some sesame seeds. I'll put them in the oven, and then this will be prep for dinner tonight. I still have to mince the beef up, but I'll do that when it cools down a little bit. Hopefully we get a little bit of rain and the weather turns a bit. So for the moment, that's all I'm doing. So hamburgers, we mince beef. This is the beef trim from Costco. So we get it in bags of whatever it comes in, and we dice it up for using for mince. So the pieces just come, whatever comes, just big slabs of bits, and all I do is I cut it up to go into the mincer. When I'm mincing this, when I'm cutting this up for mincing, sometimes when there's some really nice meaty bits, I will like dice it up for slow cooking or whatever. But today I'm just going to cut this up for burgers, because that's what we're having for dinner. And I'm not going to cut all of it up or mince all of it up, just enough to make burger patties, and then the rest of it can go back in the fridge and I'll deal with it tomorrow or the next day. So about 2 kilos, which will do us for dinner, probably some leftovers tomorrow as well. With my hamburger mince, I haven't got a big bowl clean at the moment, so I'm just going to split it between the two so that I can mix it through. And all I do is add some onion powder and some salt. And then I'm just going to work it through without doing too much. We don't want to make it tough. I just want to get the seasonings through it, and then we'll be ready to make patties. Send a plate of the rolls and patties and stuff over to the table for the kids to help themselves, and Darryl and I will just cook off ours with this bit of bacon left from lunch and have it in stacks to eat like that. Alright, lunch. We got this leftover mince that I minced up with a bit of the onion and the salt. The kids have leftover hamburger buns to have whatever they want on them for lunch. Darryl and I are going to have this. I've got this mingle seasoning that I wanted to try, so I'm going to give a go with this on this mince, and then I'm going to make a chaffle style thing out of it. So I'm just going to sprinkle a bit of this seasoning on it and cook this off first. Alright, I'm going to try the ones that have just cheese and the meat. We're going to try these without the almond meal and stuff. So most of those have a thin layer of cheese on the bottom, and I'm going to use the Mexican blend cheese. Do a thin layer on the bottom, and then some mince on it. Now normally I put pickles, cut up pickles in here, but they've eaten them all, so I'll have to buy more of that in the next month's trip. And then a bit more cheese on the top, and then we will close it now, because this is a Mexican blend. It shouldn't like seep all out the edges, is the hope, unlike mozzarella. So then we'll close it and we'll see how we go, and I can always just serve these with salsa or something. We'll see how we go, see how it turns out. So the light's gone out, and this is what it looks like at the moment. And all the stuff that I was looking at, they were all very fatty when they didn't have anything to soak up the fat. So it'll be interesting to see if I can get it out, though. It looks promising. This is the new waffle maker, so it's a bit easier to use still. So that's come out in mostly one piece. Oh, hot. Put that on rack and we'll see how it goes, and we'll make another one. I topped up the cheese a little bit more in this one to try and give it a bit more of an edge. It seems to have worked for the second one, just to give it a bit more structure. And could possibly do even with a little bit more around the edges by the looks of it, but that one came out in a bit more of a whole piece. So, we'll do a few more and I'll let you know what they taste like. They're actually softer than I expected, but still got some crunch to them, but softer than I expected. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut them and serve them. We got a thing of salsa with some sour cream on top, and I'm just going to put these on our plates with the pieces to eat it with, and that's going to be lunch. Dinner tonight, we're going to do the chicken thighs. So these are the bone-in chicken thighs, and all I do is I cut out the bone in the middle. These get fed to the dogs, so I generally am not particularly picky about making sure that I get all the meat, because the dogs thoroughly enjoy them as a treat for their meals. So all I do is cut the bone out of each one like that, and then we're going to cook them skin side down. So this is the first step. The kids will have mashed potato and veg. Darryl and I will probably just have the chicken, I don't know, something else maybe. Depends on how many thighs are in this packaging here, but I'm just going to do this for all of them. We salt the skins really well. Let them sit for a little bit before throwing them off, and it makes it really lovely and crispy. So the kids are having the chicken thighs, crispy skin chicken thighs with mashed potato, steamed veg, and then they can have whatever they have afterwards if it's not enough. So these chicken thighs end up with this really crispy skin on them with the way we cook them, so everyone enjoys those.
Dolores, would you like them too?
Dolores does like them.
So that was everything. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.